Welcome to Hannah Jean's Diaries. I have wanted to do a diary, like a video diary, for a really long time, and it's always been kind of a dream, honestly just for me. And I've talked to my husband about it for basically our whole marriage, and he encouraged me to just do it. So here I am. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm really excited to document our life, and I'm gonna do fun things like, vlogs, like trip vlogs and book reviews, and I wanted to do like a fun spring, summer curriculum, how to make your summer fun and count and not just sit and scroll on your phone all summer. So it's, I'm learning alongside all of this, so let's get into it with the best books to read for spring. So the first book I'm going to recommend for you to read this spring, bear with me, if you grew up a Disney girl, that's all that you really need to know, but if you grew up a Disney girl, more specifically a Tinkerbell girl, and you loved Tinkerbell, like that was my thing growing up as a little girl, then I have a great book recommendation for you. It is The Wings of Starlight by Allison Saft. I actually found this on Pinterest somehow. Some girl was posting about it on Pinterest, and I saw it at Barnes & Noble while we were on vacation, and I needed a book, so I just kind of picked it up. I hadn't read anything like this before, but it actually ended up being like one of the best books I think I've gotten for like this type of book that I've read. So it is basically about, if you watched the Tinkerbell movie where it was the Snow Sisters, so it was Tinkerbell and the girl, this is about the Queen and the Snow King during that, way before. So a little bit about this book is basically, before she was the Queen of Pixie Hollow, she was a young fairy who had to choose between duty and her heart. It's been centuries since a warm season fairy has crossed into the winter woods, and while most fear the legends of monsters lurking in from frozen lands, Clarion can't help but be intrigued by winter's stoic beauty. However, under the watchful eyes of the current monarch and the court's seasonal ministers, Clarion has little time to dwell on daydreams while the days of her coronation dwindle away. So it's a love story between the warm season fairy and the winter fairy. There's conflict, there's yearning. It's very appropriate. It's a clean read. This was one of my favorites. It's very atmospheric. Everything is described, and I was genuinely smiling while I was reading this. So highly recommend, 5 out of 5 star read for this book. For our second book recommendation, I would recommend The Secret Garden. Now this is a classic. I think this was written in 1910, 1911, and I'm sure you've seen the movie, but the book, I highly recommend reading the book. It is so atmospheric, it is so magical, it is perfect for spring. It's literally a secret garden. But it's about a young girl who her family passes away, and she's very rich, very spoiled little girl. And she has to go move to the moors of England to live with her uncle, who basically wants nothing to do with her, it seems. And she's exploring this, kind of dead, wintered, big area where her uncle lives, this big fancy house. And she hears these stories of this secret garden that has been locked away for 10 years, and she finds it. And the whole book is about bringing this garden back to life. She makes friends along the way, both people and animal friends. It's very well written. I actually got choked up reading it because it is just so well written. And one of my favorite quotes is, "I am sure there is magic in everything." So I highly recommend reading this if you love like an atmospheric read, but also love a classic. So very, very good book. All right, third up for our reading list. This one I had actually forgotten about that I had read, but it is The Gilded Girl by Pamela Kelly. This is, the back literally says it all. Cinderella meets the Gilded Age. That is pretty much this book. I got this book about 2 years ago, and I was really in my Gilded Girl era season. and just loving that time period and the atmosphere and the stories, the fashion, the love, you know, all of that. And this book is this in a book. Like, it is that aesthetic in a book. Very good read. Basically, the back little thing says, you know, soon after her mother passes, London lady's maid Eliza Chapman learns that her father is Ward Redfield, one of the richest men in Manhattan, and he has sent a one-way ticket for her to stay with him and his family. He says his 2 daughters are excited to meet her, but Eliza discovers they are actually far less enthused about her arrival. She feels like a fish out of water and suddenly thrust into a whole new world as she is presented to society and attends all the events and parties of the season. The understood goal of the season for all young women is to secure an engagement. As Eliza finds her way, she begins to question what's most important. So if you, once again, Disney girl, love Cinderella, but also love The Gilded Age, The Gilded Girl by Pamela Kelly. The Gilded Girl by Pamela Kelly, I can't say that. It's such a good read. And plus the cover is just absolutely gorgeous. So I highly recommend this book as well. All right, next up, I've got two in one just because they're shorter books and they're by the same author. These are vintage. I have one original and then one newer one. But if you love a good mystery, a quick read mystery, I highly recommend honestly any Nancy Drew book, but these two specifically for spring. We've got Nancy Drew and The Mystery at Lilac Inn. It's basically about, well, the back says, at an instant, a piercing shriek came from the garden. The 3 girls dashed down the stairs and rushed outside. So these are super short little thrillers. They are middle grade, I believe. My mom and my grandmother actually read Nancy Drew growing up, and I was passed down all of those books. This was the one I got at the bookstore because I had wanted to read this specific one. Great for spring. And then this was the one I was passed down, The Sign of the Twisted Candles. So this is an original, and it's, once again, a thrilling short read mystery. It's got some fun illustrations throughout the book, and honestly, you could read these in one sitting. So these are really fun. You can get these honestly, you can find them at the thrift store, used books, Amazon, I'm sure. But yeah, Nancy Drew books are so fun. The thriller aspect of these books is actually pretty good. Honestly, I love a good thriller. But they're light. So I feel like that kind of makes them a little bit more springy. Okay, next up, I'm going to recommend this book, and now bear with me. This is a middle grade book. I know, but honestly, sometimes middle grade books are better, if not just as good, as like young adults. But I actually got this book a year ago, and I got it while we were at the beach, and I just wanted something fun and like, you know, a little bit of fantasy, but you know, no spice. And it is A Tale of Magic. Just look at this cover. It is so stinking adorable. But it's basically the back. In a world where magic is outlawed, Bristol Evergreen's life is about to change forever. So it's basically this world where magic is outlawed, and there's actually a little map at the beginning, I think, of this book, where there's all these different sections where the people are living, and you know, people who can do magic and unicorns, they're banned. We don't want that, you know, it's bad. And this little girl is, you know, wants to discover the secrets of why is magic bad and am I magic? So this was a really good read. It's actually a pretty decently big book. It was one of the first middle grades I had bought. You know, I was suspicious because, you know, is this gonna be boring? Is this gonna, you know, I was enthralled. I had a great time reading this book. But I love these types of books for spring. I think like magic and fantasy and things like that, I think are really fun for spring. I think it just brings up like the fairy and the garden vibes that I think are just really sweet and fun. So this was a really good read. I highly recommend A Tale of Magic. For our last book recommendation, I feel guilty even saying I'm recommending it because I am just about to start it for myself. But I had seen this book quite a bit on my Pinterest. I don't know about you, but that's where you can find some good books on Pinterest if you look up aesthetic, book, whatever. So I found this book while I was scrolling on Pinterest one morning drinking my coffee, and it is called The Sun and the Star Maker. can we just take a second for this book cover? Just, oh my gosh, it's precious. This book is going to be one of my spring reads that I'm going to be starting. I'm very excited to read this. It is a young adult's, and for the inside cover it says, nestled deep in the snowy mountains of the Lost Range, the village of Riverweir. Oh my gosh, I can't pronounce that. The village of Riverweir. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, I'm gonna read this again because I can't pronounce that. Can you cut that out, please? Okay, restarting. Going into the inside of the book here, the little sleeve cover, it says, nestled deep into the snowy mountains of the Lost Range, the village has a small miracle. Beyond the reach of the sun, this village is dependent upon the magic of the mysterious Star Maker. Every morning, he trudges across a vast glacier and pulls in sunlight over the peaks, providing the village with light it needs to survive. Aurora Finch grew up on the tales of the Star Maker's magic, never imagining she'd one day meet him. But on the morning of her wedding, a fateful encounter in the frostbitten woods changes everything. The Star Maker senses a powerful magic within her and demands she come study under his guidance. With her newfound abilities tied to the survival of the village, Aurora is swept away to his ice-covered castle and far from everything she has ever known. So this just sounds so good. The back even, there once was a village so far north that it most considered at the top of the world, and in that village, the sun fell in love with her Star Maker. So it's very romantic, it's very sweet. It's definitely more early spring, I would say, for like the colder days, you know, good like rainy day read. It's just a beautiful book also. But I'm very excited to read this, and I'm gonna recommend it to you too, because look at it. It's gotta be good. So those are my book recommendations for spring of 2026, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will leave a link for these books down in the description below if you want to order them on Amazon. I'm sure your bookstore will have them too, but just in case you want to get them on Amazon, because the 2-day Prime shipping is pretty good. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it, and I am going to be planning my next one here very soon. I was thinking about doing some form of a spring cleaning vlog, baking. I don't know, we're gonna figure it out, but if you have any recommendations, feel free to let me know. So, anywho, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you very soon.